Don't sound like
Hmm?
that. Can't wait on notification. Boom. And we are live. I want to thank everyone for tuning in to a very special edition of Off the Record on the People's Podcast. We have an amazing guest with us, one who I have been working diligently on trying to get this interview with, and I'm very happy that it's able to finally happen. Brother Joseph, assalamu alaikum, sir.
Wa alaikum salam.
Thank you very much. For those who don't know, Brother Joseph is very multi-talented. Not only is he a student in a ministry class, but working in the medical field, but also an amazing engineer and someone who understands music. So we definitely want to get into that later. And we owe him a lot. A lot of those young people who came up under him during the youth movement time for opening your house, letting us play spades, letting us play sports, for you being a chaperone. So I thank a lot for you and doing that as well, Brother Joseph.
Thank you. Thank you. Praise belongs to Allah. My honor, man. I love you.
Yes, sir. My brother Rashad just said, just stay calm himself. Okay, excellent. Okay, that brother Joseph. The first question I want to know is, when did you first hear the teachings of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad?
I first heard the teachings of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad in 1988, 88 through music. I had heard the name. I'd been studying in school, and I read the autobiography of Malcolm X. I think it was in fact, it was 1987. And when I started to read that and heard it, and I went through a Black History class in Berkeley, California. I went to Berkeley High. When I went to that Black History class, it was one of the only few that was a year-round Black History class in the nation. Headed by, may God be pleased with our brother. His name was Mr. Navy. He is now passed on, whose son, I believe, was played football. But he was one who spearheaded a lot, taught us a lot. We read a lot of nationalistic books, things like that. But then we got on to the teachings of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. And I have to say that as much as I learned in that beautiful class, we did not talk about the Honorable Elijah Muhammad in a very favorable light, or the Honorable Farrakhans in a very favorable light. But that's when I first heard.
Yes, sir. Wonderful. Praise be to Allah. And what made you accept it if you accept the teachings if you didn't, your first interaction wasn't positive?
Well, a lot of it was through music. So I have to say one of the biggest influences was Rakim, Public Enemy. And Public Enemy said on their first album, they said, "Word to the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, know you ought to be black." And that's when I kind of, my ears perked up. Then Rakim said a lot, all praise due to Allah. I was a Christian at the time. Public Enemy used to say, "The follower of Farrakhan, tell me that you understand until you hear the man." And when I brought that up in class, I said, "Well, who's Farrakhan?" I said, "I don't know who that is." And my teacher looked real stern at me and said, "We don't have time to talk about that right now." And being one of the causes, that made me look further into it forced me to find out who was this man. So I was blessed to see him on Donahue. And when I saw him on Donahue, it forever changed my life. And then I went to go hear our brother, may Allah be pleased with him, Khalid Muhammad, and me being black and bald headed, had a little hair then myself, but he was the first person that I ever seen that was real dark skinned, that really talked and really knew his stuff like that, and really could fire you up. And I don't have to talk to anybody about Dr. Khalid. He was a strong soldier. And from that day forward, then I had a brother, and I have to say this, here's a brother named Brother Darnell. I knew him from the streets, and he was younger than me, but he was in the Nation of Islam at the time, and he would ask me. And when I basically saw him, that was a wrap. It was a wrap.
Praise be to Allah. And what was it like meeting Dr. Khalid in person?
He was one of the, when I heard him speak, obviously he was one of the militant, hardest, brothers that I'd ever met in my life. I had nothing to correlate with that for coming from the church. And when I actually met him, I found he was one of the most genuine, one of the most warm, loving brothers that I had really ever met in my life. And it was amazing. He would travel around with bags of books everywhere he would go, and he would debate anybody anywhere on the spot. And not only would he debate you, he would clown you in those debates. And it was something for a young brother to see. It was extraordinary for somebody like me to see at the time.
Makes me so loud. Beautiful. How did your parents feel about you accepting the team?
My mother didn't. I was with my mother at the time, and my mother wasn't very favorable with me joining the Nation of Islam, only because of this, the way that I came. I read the Bible backwards and forwards in the church, and there were questions that I had, and it almost seemed like when I heard the teaching. So I came back in, I'm going through Revelations, I'm going through, look, this say Jesus is black, look, this say this, and my mother's looking at me. So that wasn't very favorable. It was not for the teaching. She was 100% with it. If I accepted it, she was 100% with it. It was just the way that I came. I was so abrasive because I was so fired up at what I heard. And I didn't mean to be, but I was just so fired up that I just was coming so hard because I wanted everybody that I knew to accept the teachings of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad at that time.
Beautiful. Did you ever get would you ever able to calm that down and explain it better in a better way once you matured?
Well, my mother actually matured me. It was better. I became a assistant minister in Richmond, California.
Mm-hmm.
She called me one morning. This was after about 15 years of me being in the mines. She called me and she said, Joseph, she said, what are you doing this morning? I'm thinking, well, you know what I'm doing. I said, I'm getting ready to go to the mines. And she said, these are her words. She said, okay. She said, are you preaching? I said, yeah, I'll be opening up. She said, well, God told me, these are her words now, God told me to support your ministry. She said, I'll be there. Yes. I was very happy and excited that I didn't run her away because I was so abrasive. So I thank Allah. I thank Allah for my mother, who, by the way, she's in Georgia now, and she does come out when we meet in Cobb County. She comes out by the grace of God, and
wonderful. Okay, go ahead, Brother Joseph. Yes, sir. Excellent. All right. When you came in Richmond, California, what was the climate like? Who trained you?
Yes. So I actually came in Oakland. I came in Oakland, California, and it was a young brother, Brother Darnell. He actually trained me. I had a wonderful captain, Brother Daryl. He's in Los Angeles now. I had a minister, Minister Abdul Rab Muhammad, may Allah be pleased with him, who was in Oakland at the time, and they ran me through it. I would study, I would listen. Brother Darnell, even though he was younger than me, he would always train me. We would sit in the car and we would go to the store, and I'd sit in the car and wait for him, get ready to wait for him to come out the car. And he said, no, brother. He said, walk in the store with me. And he would say, secure me like you're going to secure the minister. He said, secure your brother. This is what he would say, practice on your brother. This how he would teach me and train me. And they would run me through the lessons. These brothers were pushing 1,000 papers per issue. I never got to that level, but they were pushing that much, and they taught me through music. We were listening to Poor Righteous Teachers, Brand Newmans, all of that. He would teach me the lessons through that, and he would walk me through it. And Brother Abdul Rab, I used to ask him, I would say, I'm listening to the minister, Brother Rob, and I don't understand something. I said, he's always talking about Jesus. And I'm, basically all for Muhammad. I'm a Muslim. I'm ready. And he was the kind of minister. He brought me into the office. He was an older minister. He brought me into the office and said, Brother Joseph, sit right down. And he sat me down And he walked me through the scripture and he said, brother, when he's talking about Jesus, he's talking about no other than the most honorable Elijah Muhammad. And he walked me through the scripture. And I thank Allah that he was very patient with me and that they were all very patient with me. I love each and every brother. And I have to mention our brother, Brother Roland, who was also, may Allah be pleased with him. He was a lieutenant. And me being young at the time, we would butt heads a lot. He was a funny brother, strong brother, well, would train me well. My first suit, I don't believe I'm gonna mention this in front of everybody in the world, I guess. My first suit, I'd never worn a suit before, except to the prom. So I had a blue, it was a blazer with white pants, and I had a red bow tie. I was proud. I was proud because I'd never worn it. I was so proud of walking around. And the only time I knew that something was wrong with that, I was walking down the street one day, and a sister looked at me and she touched me on the shoulder like this. She said, "Oh, well, bless your heart." Something was wrong with my suit. And so Brother Roland one day came to the mosque. He was about 5'9". I was 6'1", maybe 145 pounds. He came with a suit, a black suit, and he said, "Brother, this is one of my suits that I can't wear anymore, and I want to give it to you." I didn't realize he's shorter than me. He's heavier than me. I'm skinny and tall. So they actually bought a suit for me. The FOI bought me a suit, and I was forever grateful. I was very thankful for that. So I have to mention
it. Beautiful. What was it like? How did you get to Atlanta?
Oh man, so it was through your brother Adonis. Now, Brother Adonis, I had been a captain in not in Oakland, but in Richmond. I transferred to Richmond, and I had been a captain in Richmond, an assistant minister in Richmond. And Brother Adonis was one of the brothers that I helped to train. And when he came to Atlanta, I had been through a divorce at the time, and I was with my children, and I was never going to leave, go anywhere without my children. Brother Adonis was out, and he said, "Brother, there's so many youth," because I've always worked with the youth. I always had a PE class for them at MUI. I always worked with the youth one way or the other by the grace of God. Brother Salih in California, Minister Keith and Sister Salama's child, I got to give him a shout out. He was one of the young brothers that I used to work with. There was a lot of them, and I love them all. And when he told me there were over 100 youth in Atlanta, I said, "Oh Lord," and he told me about the work, and he told me about Minister Sharif, who your father, I have to say, from my viewpoint in California, I believe that he was the number one helper of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, and I felt that this was a great place for me. It's just uprooting a whole family and coming out here. I was not able to do anything like that, except for the fact that may Allah be pleased with my ex-wife, Sister Lisa. She ended up passing when my daughter Jaleesa was 15 and Azim was 11. She ended up passing, and that very year, at the end of the year, 2015, we were working with Tookie Williams, trying to get him out of jail, all of these things. But we came, and I had never been to Atlanta. We came here sight unseen to Atlanta, and we wanted to help your father. That was one of the biggest reasons. And my selfish reason was because there were so many youth. I wanted to work with the youth. I always wanted to work with the youth.
Thank you so much. Beautiful story. I never knew this. That's why you got to talk to people. My sisters, Mimi and Naima, both send the greetings to you as well, Brother Joseph.
Wa alaikum salam.
Well, speaking of the youth movement, did you ever use or get a book on how to play spades? Because when you're in the youth movement, you seem to lose a lot of spades whenever we would play spades, whenever we were all convened, you seem to lose a lot. You know what I'm saying? Did you ever learn how to do that?
Well, one of the most beautiful things that I learned was you never want to crush the spirit of the youth. You always let them win. Khalid, if you out there listening, you always let them win because you don't want to hurt their feelings.
Yes, sir. Beautiful. We appreciate that. On your Facebook page, there was a time where the minister came, a picture of you with the minister that you posted. He came to 10,000 Fearless House, and you would, in your medical bag, as they say, you were, focused on that. What was that like, and how was that experience?
it was a wonderful experience. I work for AMR, American Medical Response, in DeKalb County, and I got um, um, some of my work, the people that I work with, to help. They were also there. They were blessed to meet the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, and when we were working in that environment with the Ministry of Health, all throughout the nation. Everybody was there. We were fired up. We were excited. We thought the minister might come. And when we were blessed to see him, we were just overjoyed. I was, if you see the page, I was all smiles. I was so excited. And he walked past, and this was the most beautiful thing that you could see. You know, when you got the Jesus in your midst, he asked, who put this together? And if we have time, I'll go into that whole story because it was a heck of a thing. But I saw your father behind him. He said, Brother Joseph, and I heard all of the E-team saying, Brother Joseph, Brother Joseph. They yelling my name. The apostle says my name, Brother Joseph. I'm just, buck-eyed and excited. And he came over to shake my hand, and I froze. I froze, and others shook his hand. But as he turned, he stopped, and the picture you see, he turned and he looked at me, and he said, Brother, he said, he said, you all are walking in the path of the master, meaning Jesus. You're walking in the path of the master, doing this work. He said, but I never heard Jesus heal anybody and say, now give me some money. That's what he said. And, we all trying to figure out, did he think we were, greedy, or, what was he saying? But these were the words that he said. And we have been turning them over, Brother William and Brother Rudolph and others, ever since. We have been turning those words over. And I'm just was so honored. And I was on cloud 9 since that day to assist in that way. Well, that was great.
Praise be to Allah. What a great job. The medical field, what advice would you give to young men who may desire to have a career in the medical field and just need some direction? What advice would you give to them?
Run. No, I would tell them. No, listen, if it's in your heart to do, you should do it. Don't come into this field for money, which is a big thing that I learned. You can get a good living in this field, but don't come into this field for money, because the psychological trauma that you'll go through, the things that you see, you have to know in the medical field, you're going to see people at their worst at all times. So you have to get prepared for that. Nobody is prepared for some of the things that I would see. I'd see a 15-month-old baby who was beaten with a bat by someone's boyfriend because they wouldn't stop crying. So, to see those things, especially at that time I had young children, is very traumatic. And you have to get help, talk to somebody. But you're helping. You're doing the best that you can, and it can be very noble, but you cannot do something like that for money. Don't do it for money.
Beautiful. Praise be to Allah. Excellent. And the other Brother Joseph says something like Brother Josh and Brother Joseph. Alaikum salam, sir.
Alaikum salam.
Now, coming from the home of E40 and Banks, and so many of these West Coast people in Oakland, Too Short, I'm assuming, and then coming to Atlanta, well, then Richmond, my goodness, and just hearing the masterpiece stories and all that kind of stuff about Richmond, California, then coming to Atlanta, sir?
Can't forget JT, the bigger figure, even though he was but he was close, very close.
Okay, yes, sir. I didn't know that. I know about JT, so I came to Atlanta. But have you ever faced fear? And if so, how did you overcome that fear?
Yes, short answer, yes. The way I'll tell it is one of my captains told me years ago, fear is a reality. But if it ain't in me, it's in you. But it's a reality. And we have to know that each time we face fear, Oakland, California is a heck of a city. But it's not unlike New Orleans. It's not unlike Chicago. It's not unlike Detroit. It's not unlike even Atlanta. As they say now, I think Atlanta may have been a little different. Not unlike DC. So you're going to face fear growing up. You're going to come up and you're going to come up the rough side of the mountain. Um, I've had 2 or 3 guns pulled on me by the time I was 14 or 15 years old, and was blessed to get out. I've had police, when people talk about these police stories, I've had, 5 and 6 police cars when I'm just walking home pull me over. I've had them tell me that, I fit the description when they were doing a shakedown, and they check you. And if you have weapons, you go into jail that day. So, you have this growing up in that area. You are going to face fear. The difference is, I'm going to say now, as I said then, that I was fearful, that I was afraid, that I was scared, instead of saying, oh man, no, everybody gets this bravado. Overcoming your fear is something. You have to look at your fear. You have to know what kind of environment you're in. Oftentimes in that environment, we think that there are 2 kinds of people. There are victims and victimizers. And those are the kind of things that we think. And that's the way that we're programmed to think, that you're either going to be a victim or a victimizer, not knowing that there's another path. There's another path. And that path is that you don't have to be a victim nor a victimizer. You can be a helper. You can be one in the midst of that path that can help victimizers no longer become victimizers, and people that were certainly victims at a particular time, you can raise them up to a level of those people that are someone that can love themselves, be respectful to themselves and others, and that's what I learned, being fearful and then looking into that fear and overcoming that fear by Allah's grace.
Praise the Lord. Beautiful. Go ahead, Brother Joseph. Yes, sir. How was it? What was the climate like during the Million Man March, and how did it personally impact you?
Oh man! So the Million Man March was something that was so incredible. In Oakland, California, you have to understand, California almost feels like, especially now that I've been in Atlanta, it feels like everybody from DC, from Memphis, from everywhere comes through Atlanta, and the nation. When you're in California, you seem to be off on your own and by yourself. You're kind of locked out from a lot of the rest of the world, it seems, except Savior's Day or something like that. During the Million Man March in '95, that was the first time I had ever left California. I had never been outside of California. Strike that. I'd been in Nevada once to see the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, but I didn't go out of California. And so when the Million Man March came around, if you'll permit me, my father and I, we did not get along. And there was a thought that I had that if I never talked to my father, I'd be fine with that. I really believe that. And he called me as we were getting ready to go to the Million Man March. He called me and he said, Joseph, that's his voice. He said, Joseph, I heard you were going to the Million Man March. And I will never forget this, by Allah's grace, as long as I live. I was laying on the floor, and I had one of those old phones with the cords, the landlines. Mm-hmm. And I'm on the floor, and he said, Joseph, I heard you were going to the Million Man March. He said, I have to go because it's about responsibility. It's about atoning. He said, I have to go. He said, but I heard that you're going. And he said, I'm proud of you, son. And it made me feel like it really made me feel like a baby. And I wasn't much on crying, but I would have, if I would have definitely cried at that point. My father and I met up in DC. Now going to the plane, it's not like after 2001, getting on the plane, you can just walk in and everybody could walk to the back. My aunt dropped me off, and I saw all these brothers, and we all knew where we were going. You kind of looked and you kind of gave each other the, what's up, because everybody knew where they were going. And as my aunt dropped me off, and as the women dropped their boyfriends, brothers, whatever, sons, as they were dropping us off, I could see the look in their eyes. And I wish I could translate that look to you through words, but it was such a look of pride that these women had, that these men were going. We didn't know what was going to happen. We didn't all know if we were going to war, what was going on, but we were just proud to go. by the grace of God, and every man knew, and we were all excited and all fired up. And it was the most beautiful experience that I had because the climate was so wonderful, but it was quiet in Oakland. But when we got to DC, I actually heard on the radio, the Million Man March, and we welcome you from all over the country. And I was shocked because, all we had on the West Coast was hate. All was hating the minister. And to have somebody actually embrace us, we said, no, it's a trick. We, we thought, but it was so beautiful. It was such an experience. And I will never forget that as long as I live, by the grace of God.
Praise me to a lot. But Joseph, as you see, your powerful testimony has affected my albums on the wall. But yes, sir.
Off the wall. Did it not off the wall?
Excellent. What Captain Deshane says, beautiful testimony. Excellent, sir. My next question is, what has been your greatest trial in your tenure in the nation, or just in life, and how have you overcome that?
Work in progress. One of my greatest trials was trying to be a soldier and trying to balance that with family. When I first came in, I lost a few families over the Nation of Islam, because when I first came in, I'm saluting and listening. I was 19 years old, and I'm hearing things, and as I come home, the whole family is getting drilled like the same way. And you already know, so I ain't got to tell you, but that's the reality. And you become abrasive, you become harsh, and you don't mean to be. It's coming from a place of love and protection and respect, but it's just harsh. And sometimes that's been one of my largest trials. I have a trial right now. You asked me of one that I won't all the way speak on, and one of the trials is my son. Which is one of the most difficult trials. And I think it could have been born partially of sometimes the harshness of how you deal with things. My son and I, who I love very much, and we talk weekly. We truly love each other, but I think there are some things that could have damaged, your family and your family relationships. So that's kind of the most difficult things if you don't know how to balance it. And there's a teaching aspect and a training. So oftentimes we hear the teaching, but we don't necessarily take the training. And I think that's kind of the difficulty factor that we might have in the mind. That's one of the biggest things that I've had in my family.
Yes, sir. And I want to thank you for your sacrifice and the sacrifice of your family, sir. Man, it's nothing but love over here. And your son, I mean, just playing football, with us, and Sister Lisa, of course, singing on our first mixtape. So that was always good. I mean, drilling, but of course, singing on, mixtape. So that was always good too. What has been your greatest joy? And your
the greatest problem would be the greatest joy. That to see my daughter go off to college, and now you wonder, you say, what direction are they going to go in? What path are they going to go in? But then to see her come to Savior's Day on her own dime, to see my son still studying and reading the Quran and loving, and my extended daughter, Alexis, loving the teachings of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, whatever I struggle, because we know whatever struggle we have, they got to know Daddy love them. Daddy with them, Daddy's, and he gonna love them to the end. And it is what it is. And I don't have any, I'm not ashamed. I'm not, I really love my children. I thank Allah for them, who they're becoming, by the grace of God.
Beautiful, beautiful. And on that high note,
and the teaching of Honorable Elijah Muhammad through the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan that allowed this.
Beautiful, beautiful. Go ahead, Brother Joseph. Okay, and on that note, I want to quickly give our 60-second commercial break. Cash App the People's Podcast. Thank you for your sponsorship. My brother Rashad and his business partner Jamal, Street Premier Media Production. I thank you all very much. They have a 4K camera, a drone. They work on television, film, as well as music video sets, which they're focused on right now. My sister Miriam's children's book, ABC I Love Me, and coloring book. It's on Amazon. Thank you, Mimi. Please reach out and get that. My sister Naima's ballet company, Stay on Point Dance Academy, LLC. She's teaching children virtually ballet as well as in studio with the COVID. Um, Supreme Men's Fashion and Clothing out of St. Louis. If you all need some clothes, reach out to our brother. He will ship them to you all across the country. Raising Black Millionaires, Sister Tia Muhammad. She has economic and empowerment flashcards for young Black children, teaching economic empowerment and development. Brother Kenneth Muhammad, bow tie maker extraordinaire, 917-337-1380. He'll ship bow ties to you all across the country. Thank you very much, Brother Kenneth. Exodus, a new way of life, credit restoration. They will help you get your credit A1. Thank you. We'll come right back to you, Brother Joseph. Khalik's Boutique, they do custom made t-shirts. Shout out to you all. If you need some custom t-shirts, reach out to them. Brother Chantel X, he can hire truck drivers. Also, if you need some things shipped across the country, he will get right on top of that for you all. Brother Jabbar Muhammad, painting, carpentry, flooring, and plumbing, Client First Construction out of Chicago, Illinois, and Memphis, Tennessee. So if you're in both of those areas, please reach out to Brother Jabbar Muhammad. Brother Dr. Henry M. Carter, King Henry's Turkey Legs. If you're in the Atlanta area and need some turkey legs, especially around Thanksgiving time, reach out to Dr. Carter. Brother Rashad Muhammad, COVID-19 disinfecting cleaning service in Chicago area. If you need anything clean, reach out to Brother Rashad. My father's book, A Soldier in the Movement of Christ, AbdulSharif.com. Thank you very much, Dad. And last but not least, Cleopatra, my children's book, which is on Amazon, and No Father, No Excuse, which is on Amazon as well. Thank you all for your continued sponsorship. Brother Joseph, right back to you.
Sure.
What advice would you give to future husbands?
Future
husbands.
Oh, that's a heavy. You know, one of the things, and let's see, I'm not gonna go that way. I'll go this way. For future husbands, love, love, love. They say happy wife, happy life. But I will say this: it should be a happy family. Happy family. We should both strive to make each other very, very happy. Men, you have to know something about yourself. You are very sensitive. You are very sensitive. You know, what we do, we don't like to cry. We don't like to be hurt. And so one of the things that we show when we are sad, we show anger. We show that because that's a powerful emotion, anger. It looks powerful, more powerful than if we sat and cried. So get control of yourself, get as much help as you can if you need to, do whatever you have to do, but love, 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 love your family, and make no, don't be ashamed of loving your family. That's advice that I would have, because anything else is just cherry on top. Lanye is cherry on top. That's all it is.
Beautiful. Okay, Brother Joseph. Yes, sir. And what advice would you give to future fathers?
You know, Jaleesa taught me more about being a father than anything. You know, I always wanted a son first. I wanted to have a little boy that was a reflection of me first. When I had a daughter, it made me change my thinking. You know, little girls are a little different. You know, you could say the exact same one day and say it another day. One day they laugh, one day they cry. And it's just, you know, you have to learn how that works. You have to learn in raising children that, you know, one of the things we did, we taught her ABCs, we taught her all this stuff. Jaleesa was, before she was in kindergarten, she was reading at a 3rd or 4th grade level. So take her in class and they would talk about how great she was and how good she could read and all of this stuff. Azim, you know, most of them know he's smart as a whip. Lex is intelligent. They all in their own way. But the biggest thing that I learned from my daughter was she taught when she was running track and in high school. At that time, I thought they're older. They don't want to be dealing with their parents. They want to be with their friends. So I would go to some of her track meets. And she told me when she got to college, she was very hurt by that. She was very hurt by that. And I didn't think she wanted nothing to do with me at that point. But I realized how important we are in their lives and how much that will help them with their self-esteem. Self-esteem is extremely important because it shows them, you know, makes them well-adjusted, makes them intelligent, all of that. You don't have to teach them all that. Just show them you love them. Show them you there. Show them you ain't going nowhere. And your children, you know, they will grow up and they will do the things that they need to do. Self-esteem is extremely important.
You teaching, Brother Joseph. Okay, yes, sir. Yes, sir. Excellent job. And thank you all for continuing to watch the People's Podcast. What do you do for fun, Brother Joseph, besides rooting for a team that hasn't been to the Super Bowl since John Madden? I mean, won the Super Bowl since John Madden. Like, what's going on? Like, what do you do for that?
What I do for fun. So, I've always loved helping, and I think with music, the things we do with music, that's something that's extremely important because I think it allows people that do music to express themselves. Me, I've always been an athlete all my life. Um, so I've always loved to play football, always loved to play basketball. Those are things that I do, and it's probably not going to stop. I'm in many leagues, or was in many leagues before COVID and before the knee injury. If you can ask her about this plug, before I had a little knee injury and now a back injury. So as you get older, stuff just takes that away from you. So I like to do that. I like to do music. I got Brother Ty Keys. He's with me right now. And others by the grace of God. So we continue that legacy that you all started and put forward by the grace of God with your music.
Yes, sir.
We continue that, but that's fun for me. That's fun for me. And hanging out with my wife, that's a lot of fun.
Beautiful, beautiful. And speaking of music, shout out to Brother Joseph for um, allowing us to use your studio time, man, free of charge, man. I mean, and we was over there so much doing, album song after song, and I didn't even know until I got older, like that you could have been charging us. We was just like, oh, we go to Brother Joseph's house. We just pull it up. We get the studio done. Speaking of albums, what's your favorite album of all time?
That's tough. That's a tough one. You got to look at all the different genres and all of that. Obviously, Thriller is one of them. By Michael Jackson, Peyton Full, man. You got to go to the classics. Eric B. and Rakim. It takes a nation of millions to hold us back. I think that's something like you would compare it to the Beatles' White Album or something. It was an extremely important album, a big album, huge. I love it, and I'm gonna go there. I'm gonna go to my classics. I do like Busta Rhymes album. Now Busta Rhymes album is dope. The new one.
But why is that a shot? That's the same. That's still the same old school era. It's not like you act like some new wave or something. Like you like. I do like the man who's leader of the new school. I do like the man from that's still your era, bro, Joseph. Like my goodness, it's not like that's like a jump or something.
Listen, I would love to love Lil something, small something. I would, when they put some stuff out. Now this is gonna sound this is kind of old school, but when I heard Kanye West album, the Dropout, I had never heard of Kanye West at the time.
Yeah.
And it blew me away. It was like being on a desert for years, and then finally getting some water because when I heard, I said, "Wow, I said, who's this?" And my daughter, Jaleesa looked at me, Dad, it's Kanye West. They knew, and his album blew me away. But there are very few now that I have to say this. There are very few now that I can listen straight through and not skip a song. So that's what I mean when I say those albums were.
Yes, I'm familiar with this. With your views on new hip hop. Yes, sir. What do you want? What's your legacy to be, Bro Joseph?
I would love legacy to be that he cared, that he helped, that he was a servant. That when people really see me, I want them to say without a doubt that he was a minister in every sense of the word. And I don't mean the title, but I mean what it means. Servant. I want people to say that he helped. When I first started out, I wanted to rap. I wanted to do music. I wanted to be in front of the camera. I wanted to do all of this stuff. But later, I kind of found that that's not at all what I wanted to do. I wanted to teach because it helped. I wanted to do healthcare because it helped. So I want to do things that people look at and they say, that brother at the end of the day, he helped us. He helped us. That's what I want my legacy to be.
Praise be to Allah. And I can't stress this enough, Brother Joseph. Thank you for your mentorship to us, brothers and sisters, especially the young brothers with football, basketball, music. I mean, everything. Like you will protect. I mean, going, of course, in the work too, taking us in the bone homes and all of the stuff we used to do back in the day. But on outside, when we took the Super Bowl tie off, where Joseph was going to be there, whether it was spades, it was at a park, it was food, whatever. You made your house our house, and now that I'm older, I see how I don't even like company people. So I can only imagine you having so many random people in your house. So I really appreciate you making your house our home and looking out for the young people, bro, Joseph. Thank you for that.
Love y'all. Love y'all.
Yes,
You know
sir.
what? Proud to be on, man. I'm proud that you got this thing popping. You've interviewed some giants, man.
All praise be to Allah, sir.
Just be around, when you interview people like that.
Yes, sir. Bro Joseph, you're a giant. Thank you. And Bro Joseph, I have a question. Can I get a pick for the AFC and the NFC this year? Who you got? What's going on? Yeah.
So for the NFC, what I would have thought before was Green Bay. I thought Green Bay was doing pretty good. Their defense just looks too bad at this point. So I have to say that probably the one of the best teams, the best few teams coming out of there is, of course, the Bucs. The Bucs look very good. I don't think that the Saints are strong enough on both sides of the football to really do anything. I know what they just did to the Bucs, but I also know but I know that's a division rival, and that's the thing about division rivals. When you have division rivals, anything can happen. Atlanta could beat any one of them.
Yes,
who's playing very good football right now, by the way. So the Bucs look pretty solid. Man, I just can't say they're a Super Bowl, because I know.
Yeah, I mean, it's all good.
Well, when you're a quarterback and you get into your 40s, stuff starts hurting near mid-season, and stuff just changes.
We shall see. I look forward to it. What about the AFC?
AFC is pretty easy. Is the team that's we riding with is the Graders, and I think after them, looking at it truthfully, I think the Raiders' defense is not strong enough yet to do what it needs to do. Kansas City is always a strong option, but there's a dark horse in the AFC that's a terrifying team and it's pretty good on both sides of the ball, and that's the Miami Dolphins. Miami Dolphins is
okay.
Yep. So it's going to be some good stuff going, and then COVID is going to play a major role in what happens, because if major people get sick, then the whole landscape changes. So
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree with your NFC and AFC picks. The Chiefs, of course, is looking good, but I'm sleeping on the Dolphins now. I'm not up on them like that.
They're 5-3 now. They're 5-3 now, but they started off like 0-3. But Tua, that young man, is playing some great football. But the defense is what really is moving them along. And I know if you could, you would. You don't want to look like a gang member, but you would turn that hat to the back if you could. So I understand.
No, I didn't honor of what's that guy Charles Woodson and his aggressive tackle on on the goat. You know what I'm saying? His face mask that he did in a critical time in the snow. So I had to do it. Was only right. Well, love you, Brother Joseph, love your family, and continue to do the great work that you do, Brother Joseph. Trust me, you inspire a lot of people, whether we tell you or not. You do.
Praise belongs to Allah. Thank you very much. Love each and every one of y'all. Love my youth. Love all y'all.
Yes. And thank you all for watching. Assalamu alaikum.